hands unite, stand with all your might. Anything shouts, reignite, truth to the battle, try to ignite, rebels rise, hear the sound, metal echoes all around.
Good morning, everyone.
Yes. Good morning.
And if you have been following our socials all week, you kind of know we have a guest here with us today. So
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I would say starting June off with a guest. With it's the 31st of May. I mean, it's close. It's close enough. It's close enough.
And he's closer to June than we are. So
that's very true. That's true. He's got a 7-hour head start on us. Yes, he does. That's right.
So, before we get into that, I just want to give a shout out. I know we have a special birthday today, so I just want to give that shout out before we get into this. Krista Horn from our friends over at Metalheads, her birthday is today. So, or actually, it was earlier in the week, I think.
Yeah,
we're celebrating today, so
that's right.
We will see them later on today. So, good friends of the show. And
happy birthday to Krista! Absolutely,
make sure we give them that shout out. So
that's right.
All right, so we have. With us today, Serge from, I guess, kind of fitting that that's his name, right? Like,
yep.
So yeah, we have Serge from Power Surge.
Power Surge, that's right.
Let's bring him in here and get this thing rolling.
That's right. Let's
get
do
my
it.
arrow going here. So, good.
Hey,
how you doing, man?
I'm very good, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a bit cheesy, but good morning, America.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's actually
greetings from London.
Greetings from London. Hell yes.
That's actually one of the first things I was kind of wanting to talk about was kind of you guys are kind of spread out over there. Is that still kind of the case with you guys, or?
Yeah. So I mean, the quick story with me is that I'm originally from Bosnia and sort of that part of the world. And I grew up. I live in London. I work here. Grew up here. But I spend a lot of time back home. So I've kind of got my one foot in each place. And back where I'm originally from, that's where Rocco is from. Our singer. So
right.
So at the moment, I spend my life, sort of popping back every month, and so that's how it's come about. Where I met a singer in Croatia, I'm able to maintain that, but also most of the guys in the band are from London, my sort of usual partners in crime here. So yeah, that's how we have this international sort of spread.
Okay, so fill us in. Who all is from London? Of course, you're originally from Croatia, but where is everybody originally from? Because that was one of the things that we were wanting to find out with everybody. Because we've got Croatia, Serbia, United Kingdom mentioned, and your guys' bio and all that stuff. So walk us through who all is from where.
All right. Well, I'll take it step by step. So, as I mentioned, I'm from London.
Right.
Originally from that part of the world. So, our singer Rocco, we first met 7 years ago. Both of our bands were playing in a small festival in Croatia. I took a band over from London that I play in as well. And we met them. We just kind of stayed in touch over the years, and we kept bumping into each other. And one time, I was in Croatia and I guested with his band, and so we built up this kind of friendship and musical chemistry, and then so we started with just Rocco and I. He laid down his vocals on some music I had laying around, and then so we went from being a 2-man project, and then. And then the reason why it spread to Serbia is because my go-to session drummer and my go-to producer are both in Serbia, which is next door to Croatia.
Right.
And then so the project kind of got Serbia included by getting all the music produced there, and and the drums being done there. We also shot our first sort of mini promo video there as well.
All right.
And then so that's how the project started. And then when it needed to turn into a full band, when it gained traction, um, I have a lot of musician friends in London. A lot of musicians I play regularly with, so it made sense to. My first choice musicians were Calvin and Radek, who I play with regularly here, covers, originals. So that's how it all came together. First from the singer, and then Serbia being the place where the drummer I use is, and where the production is done, and then in terms of expanding to the full live band, it just made sense to get two of my London guys involved. But we already, the London guys I have, Calvin on guitar and Radek. We travel a lot as it is. We play in different bands,
Right.
and I take those guys over to Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia. I take them over there a couple of times a year anyway, so they're already in that kind of routine of jumping on a plane with me somewhere. So that's how it all came about. So the string players are in London, and the singer and drummer are in sort of, that part of Europe.
So is it still a logistic challenge to get together and stuff, or is pretty close enough to where?
Well, the thing that helps the most is that Rocco and I, we both work from home. We both
Oh,
work
okay.
remote, and we both already like traveling just to attend concerts or let alone to perform them. So it wasn't really much of a change to our routine. And at the moment, we're playing. We're not touring constantly, but we've got a steady stream of concerts that are sort of a little bit selective, but we're playing to our target audience mainly. So we're not.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's
Well,
definitely a good
I
thing.
think we the way we launched the band is that we skipped the sort of the local scene. So we we're not sort of we didn't start by playing the local bars. We just straight away found we were aware of the scene that we belonged to, and we managed to jump straight into it. And it's the kind of scene that we're targeting, or we see as our home. It's quite spread out across Europe anyway. So
Right.
if you're going to play our kind of metal, you kind of really you are targeting these more kind of selective concerts around Germany, Sweden, Greece,
Yep.
rather than just trying to conquer every town. You're more just kind of trying to find these selective pockets of where like fellow bands are, or festivals or organizers.
Well, I mean, the good thing is, I mean, just taking a look at at the bands that your lineup has been involved in,
Yeah.
especially your drummer, for crying out loud. Good Lord, the amount of bands that Milan has been in. Holy shit. I mean, we were Jason and I were talking about it last week after we went off the air. We didn't have a guest last week, but after we went off the air, we were talking about it, talking about the interview today coming up, and we were talking about the lineup and everything. And I said, I asked him, I said, did you look at how many different projects the drummer has been in? And he said no, and I counted, it was like 27.
Yeah.
So I mean,
He's
just
definitely experienced then, right? So
yeah. I mean, just the amount of projects that Milan has been in,
Yeah.
let alone, because you and Radek were together in Cutlass, and then you and Calvin were together in Primitai.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, according to this, you guys still are. Apparently, those bands
Yeah.
are still active.
Yeah,
Is
we
that
are.
right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you guys still have other projects that you're performing in. Now, are Cutlass and Primitai, are they what are the what do those bands sound like? Do you get the same vibe as
Yeah,
Power Surge? A little different? What are we
yeah,
talking?
they're similar. Yeah, sure. I mean, starting with Cutlass. So Cutlass is it's originally a band that I had in school with two of my best mates, um, and we were called Pirates of Metal. And we came up the name when we were 15, and
Okay. So Pirates of Metal became Cutlass.
yeah, that's right because
Okay, I see it here too. Okay, all right, I got it.
after school, we all moved to different towns, and it was only we only like we had probably like a 10 year break of being active, and then we all ended up living in London together again, and then when those guys were able to spend a bit more time on music and start writing tunes again, we realised that the new music had some potential, and so yeah, we changed the name to Cutlass just to sort of
Well,
try
I
and be
mean,
a better package. And so Cutlass, it's also kind of it's traditional heavy metal, but it's got like a little bit of thrash influence. So it sort of
okay.
sounds a bit like some of the stuff sounds a bit like Testament, if I could give a reference point. So
Nice.
it's kind of
Yeah, you could definitely do a lot worse than
yeah,
Testament.
yeah.
You could do a
So,
lot worse.
it's the kind of heavy metal riffs, but with like a little bit more speed and precision, and
Nice.
Primitai is it's also kind of melodic heavy metal. It's I struggle to think how to compare. I mean, it is very similar to Power Surge. I think Primitai is it's a bit it's casting a bit of a wider net.
Okay.
So there might be a little bit of In Flames or something, or kind of like a product of growing up in London in the 2000s. That kind of metal that was popular
It
then.
got a
So
got a little bit of a, I guess, a little bit of a prog vibe to it then.
yeah, as well. Yeah, it's gone through. The sound has evolved over the years, and I think with the last two albums, we went a little bit. We had a touch of progressive metal as well.
Okay.
But,
Well, I mean,
but
you definitely want to make sure that, you evolve your sound a little bit.
yeah,
No one wants to stagnate, even if you do have more than
yeah,
one project going. So, no one wants to feel like they're stuck in the mud or anything. So,
yeah.
So you got to kind of brought up Milan there. So
Hmm.
uh, where did he get the Yegi nickname from? So,
It's so his surname is Yayina, and
oh,
okay.
and in Serbia, everyone gives each other a nickname. It's one of those cultural things. They have this tradition of everyone. You never call someone by their real name. Everyone has a nickname, and so and quite often it's like it's like a play on their first name or their surname,
Okay.
and it, and it's always like a two syllable thing. So that's how Milan Yejina it ended up being Yeki,
mm,
Yeah.
and
That's that's cool
yeah,
because he had a project by the same name, which is cool.
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I was just,
And
I just want to make sure it wasn't because he was like 8 foot tall and like big old guy or something.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, so we talked about that a little bit. So how long did like the production of this new album? How did that like I guess kind of take place, and how long did that take you guys to get that perfected down to get it onto release?
Well, so how he made the album, it was we didn't have a plan, and we didn't even know that we were going to do an album. We we sensed we had an opportunity. We sensed that we were onto something, and so just to try and give some time references. Rocco and I had our first demo session in the beginning of June, and we were very happy with the result of just that first song we did, and so in early June we had our demo. I was going to attend some concerts in September, of a band, the Fifth Angel, from
Yeah,
Florida.
I know Fifth Angel.
They were coming over to do their first European tour ever. They've done some European festivals, but this is the first ever tour, and I had this demo I'd just done, and I thought, hold on, I'm going to these Fifth Angel concerts. Maybe if I got this band on, this would be a really good launch opportunity. So, and some of the organisers I spoke to, they took us on. They agreed. They said, if you can get this up and running, yeah, like you guys can open these gigs just on that one demo. So
Nice.
So we sensed we were onto something. We had some first gigs, and we knew that if we wanted to gain some momentum and launch the band name, people had to be able to listen to us, see what we sound like, and
Right. Yeah.
so without a plan, we started one by one. For every song we added, we started recording them as well, having just the drums and rhythm tracks recorded professionally, just so they were sort of in the bank. We had no time to think really. We had 3 months to get ready for our first gigs, and we knew that to pick up the momentum, we should start releasing music. So we were recording the rhythm tracks, and we had 6 songs in the bank, sort of come September, so 3 months. And then after our first concerts with Fifth Angel, we were approached by the organizer of Keep It True Festival and FHM Records, who they work with, and they liked our first demos, and that they asked us, you guys have more songs, and would you be able to complete it by by the end of the year? So 2-3 months. So basically, we were lucky because we started recording a release, but without a plan of how or when to release it. So we already had 6 rhythm tracks laid down, and so we only had to finish the vocals and solos and add 3 songs, and there was no time to really, sort of think of a strategy or anything.
Right.
We just we were just bouncing off each other, and within 5 months we had an album fully recorded. We took we didn't have a strategy. We just knew this is a great opportunity. Let's take it and see what's happening. And the way we did it is we did everything remotely. So our drummer has a studio in his basement. He has a recording drum kit set up, permanently. Rocco and I were recording our bits, the vocals and guitars, just into the laptop. Just a dry signals, and then we sent this all to our producer in Serbia, who did the sort of packaging up. So
Okay.
we had him the multi-track. He put all the multi-tracks together. He stacked up the vocals, the guitars, the drums, and he reamped the guitars in his place. So even though I recorded it on a laptop, he sent the dry signal through a real amp, as if I was there recording it in a studio. So basically, there's no strategy really. It was just doing whatever we needed to do to hit the deadlines. And but it was interesting with the writing. It was just being just going with what first came to mind, and but we were very inspired, and we were kind of bouncing off each other. So we just managed to really finish an album in like 3-4 months.
I was about to say, talk about an accelerated timeline.
I usually allow like 12 months for
Right.
albums with other bands. At 12 months of 3-4 months, maybe half a year of pre-production, putting the ideas together, and then because we've been doing it for a long time, we really know how to streamline the whole process and make it very efficient. So all the recording can be done in a month. All the mixing and mastering depends on the engineer, but that can be done in a month or 2. But it was just years of experience of kind of realizing how to really compress it into a short amount of time. But it's incredibly smooth. There were no hold-ups. Everything
That's
just
good. That's good.
everyone rose to the occasion. Everyone just
I'm sure having
no,
having
no
some
question about yeah,
having some familiarity with each other probably helped that
yeah,
too. So
yeah.
you brought up FHM Records. I kind of wanted to touch base on that a little bit. We actually interviewed another band on that label last year called
Mm.
Pyracanda. So
Oh,
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
so
yeah. We did.
yeah, yeah. So I forgot all about that until he just mentioned that. I said, oh yeah, we actually interviewed
Yep.
some bands off that label. So
It's
that's pretty.
actually the cool thing is like the longer we do this, we're starting to run into that a
You
lot.
brought
We're
right,
actually
yeah.
starting to run into multiple artists on
yeah.
that are on this like hell Scarlet Records, RPM, FHM.
Mm.
I mean, we're really starting to interview multiple bands from these labels, and it's cool that
Mm.
paths are
Mhm.
crossing, whether it's indirectly or directly or just kind of like a small world kind of thing.
Well,
um,
what's crazy about that label though is they're fairly new. They started in
Yeah,
2020, so
mhm.
it's kind of amazing that I guess it's to me it's kind of amazing that they have so many good acts already on that. Being able to sign those acts to that label, so young. I mean, I think they have a very promising future.
Yeah.
So
Well, they definitely have an ear for talent. There's no doubt
yeah,
about it.
yeah, for sure, yes. So, uh, but I was trying to go back and see what one of the things that I was. Oh, I gotta get out of this one. So, uh,
Well, Serge, the good thing is, as far as having the truncated timeline that you were given, you said that you already had some songs done. So, I mean, at least in that respect, you weren't starting from scratch. So that's kind of a good thing that you didn't have to just start from zero and come up with
yeah,
something complete in that short of a timeline. Of course, on this, on this by that same token, the fact that you had demos was actually kind of what got you noticed. It was actually a good thing that you already did have some material to give them. So,
yeah,
they knew what they were getting. So that's a good thing too.
yeah.
So
And one thing I've realised over the years is that um, things move very cyclically. So if you do something, if you wait and you do something 2 months later, that doesn't mean the same opportunity is going to be there in 2 months' time.
right,
And
absolutely,
or like you might if you don't do something now, the boat might leave, and
right,
it might not come back for a year, and things kind of move very cyclically, sort of year by year. So you just want to make sure that you're ready to take the opportunity, because it might not come back for another year. It's kind of one of those things. If you miss the festival deadlines, or if you put
right.
your album, if you put your album out, a month or two later than you should have, then you might have sort of missed the festival booking season, or things like that. You just got to
mhm.
you've got to be on the front foot always, and especially with the new projects. I'm I'm 35 now, and I know that's not that old, but I I didn't want to spend sort of 5 years building it up. I just wanted to
Sure.
get it up and running as soon as possible. So,
Well,
so
I
that was another
mean,
motivation. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I mean, the fact that you had enough of an eye to make sure that you got your demo in the hands
yeah,
of FHM, so you could open
Mhm.
up for that,
mm,
where you could be the opener on that bill. So, I
yeah,
mean, it was. I mean, I
yeah.
you could. I don't think you could have timed it any better, really.
Yeah, yeah. The stars definitely aligned. Yeah, I just yeah, I just thought the music that Rocco and I had done had potential, and just wanted to get out there.
That's one of the things we talked to somebody before. Said that that time and things you talking about festival season and stuff like that. I know
Hmm.
like one band we talked to. I can't remember who it was. Chris maybe remember, but they had mentioned that they like to do everything before November. They want to make sure everything's out before November. And I was
Yeah,
kind of like, it's kind of like wow. I never realized there was like that. He goes, oh yeah, that's like a music scene thing. Like no band
mm,
likes to put anything out past November. I'm like,
yeah,
and I'd never heard that before, so I thought that was kind of
Yeah, who
interesting.
I remember that conversation. I can't remember who it was with.
Yeah. Was it
I have to,
was it High Reaper? I think maybe it may have been High Reaper.
Maybe I'll have to take. We'd have to take a look back, but I do remember the conversation. I just can't remember who
because
said it.
because I think that's what he was talking, because he's on the PR for the label too, the guitar.
Right.
So he was like,
Yep.
yeah, we wanted to try to make sure we got it. He said it was kind of hard being the PR person and the guitarist for
And the
band.
artist, yeah, and
Yeah,
the artist.
right. So I imagine that is kind of that double duty may be a little rough. So, but you talk about the timing thing. That's kind of like what I hate about us only having this once a week show. Is I wish we had time to do a couple times, because there's so much good stuff that comes out, and I'd love to talk to every band that I can. But then I get something that came out this week and you want to set it up, and we already booked out till the end of June right now. So It's kind of like, okay, do I say, hey, if you want to come on in July? Because right at this point, if you're coming out with a new album, I don't know what tour dates are looking like. That's kind of where we get stuck a lot of times. Is like, oh, we have bands like, oh, I'd love to, maybe we're starting our tour that week, that month, or which is cool. I don't mind. I just I don't.
Well, it's definitely great for them. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the show, is to try to get a little bit more eyes on some of these bands, and that everybody knows the purpose of the show by now. So it's kind of just try to get more eyes on some bands that we think should get a little bit more notoriety. So
bands who are just starting out, like you guys.
Well, I mean, it kind of depends on Power Surge, yes, but
that's what I mean.
They have a history, so it's kind of
you guys have been around for a minute,
kind of and I think do you guys have a lot of a fan base that kind of followed you along from band to band, or?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, we've picked up, some of the fans of our previous bands or bands we've been along. Yeah, that they're picking up on Power Surge as well. And I mean, one thing we wanted to do differently with Power Surge is when you look back at the big bands of the '80s that sort of amassed these loyal followings of. You have to be a little bit larger than life. You have to you almost have to present yourself as sort of these kind of superheroes. And one thing we're trying to do with Power Surge is make sure that the visual sort of presentation goes with the music, and because you want to capture the hearts and minds of people, and the fans of the music are there for the taking, and so yeah, that's one thing I've done differently this time. I've really made sure that everything goes with the music, rather than it's nice when it's a democracy and everyone can turn up wearing their own favorite band T-shirt or something like that. And everyone turns up being themselves and stuff. But I think this time I wanted to try the other way, and it seems to be working. Like the way we're visually presenting us as well. That's picking up fans for sure. I can just tell from the engagement, the people that are following us, liking it, writing to us, commenting. It's definitely. I can see that we're capturing a lot of people, a lot of new people as well. So,
that's great. Yeah. Well, actually, now that we brought up the other two, Cutlass and the other band, I'm probably going to end up going back listening to some of that now. So
so
that like I said, we're two guys and and we work 9 to 5s too. So it's kind of hard to keep up with everything. So a lot, and it's amazing. That's one of the reasons we started this, because we miss so much. From everyday life, and then if you're dependent on radio airplay, you're going to miss a lot anyway. So we went out, we found like these publications and stuff that give us more options and put more music in for us to listen to,
right?
And then for us to pick out of that music,
and then we have
to find people like you and bring you on the show and all that good stuff.
How did you find us out of interest?
So we go by a website called Heavy Music HQ, and they give us a list of albums every week. Every week. So me and Chris go in and do our album reviews mostly blind. So we'll just pick, because I feel like if we don't, then we're kind of like being a little bit hypocritical of the show, because we are kind of built ourselves around, kind of bringing up bands that most people may have never heard of. So
us included.
Us included, yeah. I feel like it's a help me help you situation. I'm going to help you, and then it's going to help me. So your fans are going to like turn into us, and our fans are going to turn into you. So kind of one of those situations. But yeah, so I just kind of picked. I said, "Oh, Power Surge. That sounds pretty metal to me." So I was
Yeah.
so that's what I listened to that week, and I was like, "Dude," and I so I'll say this: when I listened to the record, I got one of my favorite singers of all time is John Bush.
I knew it.
So so
I
so
knew it.
when
Fucking knew it.
when I when I listened to that, I'm like, man, I got a real John Bush vibe from Rocco. So
Same.
I was like, dude, I love this. Like, this is freaking awesome.
Some classic Armored Saint, John
Yeah,
Bush. God damn right, man.
yeah. And so
Hell yes.
that's what kind of reeled me in. And then of course I listened to it a few times and was picking out bits and pieces of what I liked and stuff. So,
Oh yeah.
Thanks, man.
yeah. But yeah, he's definitely so. Rocco even seems like he may have like some of that Sebastian Bach range from the Sebastian Bach from like the '90s range, too. Because I was just like, man, he was carrying some stuff. I'm like, man,
yeah, that's the thing. Rocco, yeah, he's a great singer, and definitely John Bush comparisons always a compliment. But yeah, what I like about him is he's got a little bit of everything. Sometimes he'll do something that's a little bit Coverdale or something. Sometimes he'll do something that's a bit Halford. He's sort of captured a lot of this middle ground between all of them, and yeah, just hearing his voice on one of my demos, the first demo we tried, it was just that was just a real motivation. It was just a real eye opener, and like, wow, we need to do something, like, and that's all it took, just one demo. And one thing that's great as well is that his interpretation is very fast. I quite often when I bring a song to him, we'll sit down. I'll show him the instrumental, and I'll hum him the melody, or record a guide melody on guitar. I have the lyrics there. I'll be like, this is kind of the phrasing I had in mind, and he'll do one run through, and he'll have pretty much the whole song down. So that's another great thing about him. His interpretation is very quick. One of the songs on the album, we had no intention of doing the final vocals that day, and we were just like, okay, let's we have a bit of time left. Let's lay down like a guide track for the next one. So you kind of sing, lay down some vocals so that you can have a reference of what to actually do. And we laid down the reference tracks, and they ended up just being perfectly good. So yeah, it's that kind of very quick interpretation as well. That's one of its strengths, and it kind of made it possible just to do this whole album like remotely and in a short time. Because you just send him an idea, and he'll just send it back, and it's 90% there, and that's it. Next song.
nice.
So is Rocco writing lyrics? You writing lyrics? I mean, a collaboration between the two, just bouncing lyrics off each other and see what comes out.
I did all the lyrics for this one,
Okay.
but there was, as in, like, I always had the initial idea, and then
Okay, all right.
and then with him we worked some things out. We rearranged some words, kind of worked in the semantics and the rhythm and things like that. Or
Okay, all right.
sometimes he'd say, "This is way too wordy," and then we'd rework it, and yeah, the thing, yeah. So it was I'd always have the initial idea, but then in between us, we'd work out the final one.
So which just out of curiosity, which song was it that basically ended up just being the song when you, after sending the reference track? Which song was it?
Oh, that was Burnout. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. The last one,
Okay.
yeah, like like I said, we had a bit of time in the studio, and we thought, let's try and be let's try and get one step ahead for the next song, and just have a reference track, and that just ended up being it. And
Nice.
and the song, that the first demo we did, that sort of blew me away, and inspired me was the Shadow's Warning. So just hearing his voice, hearing his voice on the title track, and that really it just threw me into action. It just made me
Well, that's the
the whole
funny
band.
thing. Yeah, and that's the funny thing, because we talked about his voice just a couple minutes ago, and it definitely, because the title track is the opening track of the
Yeah.
song, and it, even before the vocals kick in, I mean, just the opening riff, the way the song and the album starts off, even before the vocals kick in, kind of just grabbed me right from, because I was like, all right, this is exactly what this is going to be, and I was totally in even before, because I had to listen to this after Jason did the review, because like Jason said, he's the one who reviewed the album, so he was the one who pointed me to it via his album review. So and then when you two started talking about the interview, I was like, all right, well, I got some homework to do, which is totally fine. I'm never upset about that. So I was listening to it. So I mean, and I don't even know how long like that the intro lead in was before Rocco's vocals kick in. I mean 30-second, whatever it was. I don't have a timestamp on it, but I mean, I was already hooked just by the opening riff even before the vocals kicked in. But then the vocals kicked in, and just the way that everything meshed right off the hop, right at the beginning of the album, I was like, this is everything Jason said it was going to be. So I mean, and I was hooked right from the beginning, just because of the composition of the first maybe 90 seconds of the album.
No, thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate it. And that's one of the reasons we chose that as the title track and the album opener, and it was also the second song we released. It was just it kind of grabs you, and it sums up the band very very quickly. So yeah, but thanks for the kind words as well.
Yeah.
I think they kind of did that a few times through the record too. Like I can't remember the song, but I know one of the tracks kind of had like a almost like a fade in lead. From the guitar work, so it almost kind of reminded me of the old school like Metallica, where it's just kept getting louder and louder and louder, and I was like, "Oh, this is so fucking great!"
That was Calm Before the Storm, and that was
that's right. You're right.
Yeah, and that was also the song that we originally launched the band with. So when we put up the band websites and social medias and launched the band, and that was the song we released that day as well, and we thought that worked as well, like worked well as well, like your first ever experience of the band, and the song's fading in, keeping you on your toes. So.
Yeah, it had it. Yeah, I actually made a note of that too. I mean, it kind of like you kind of had that, what Jason said, you had that little kind of like that little, and it doesn't sound exactly like it, but
no,
what he's talking about is like the way Blacken starts on And Justice for All. So that's kind of, I even made a note of that very same thing, the opening before the lead riff. Now, another note, speaking of that song, another note that I made about that song is, anyone doing backing vocals for Rocco on that song? Is anyone doing backing vocals, or is that just layered in?
Yeah, it's layered in. Yeah.
Okay. Because I know that no one is showing credited as doing any backing vocals, but that doesn't necessarily mean that no one does it. But that was just something that kind of stuck out to me on that track. It's like, it sounds like someone's backing him up. So I just wondered if it was one of you guys.
We made use of like some definitely some vocal layers to bring out that song. It was a little bit inspired by Dokken as well. We in some of the other bands I've been in, just as a writer, something I've done is made the choruses a bit too wordy, too many words in the chorus. Like, for example, I love Megadeth, but then like sometimes the chorus has the same amount of words as a verse, and things like that. And I wanted to.
And Dave will do that. Yeah. Yes, he will.
I love Megadeth, and
same.
They're a better band than Dokken. Even I admit that. But yeah, I just wanted to go for that kind of three-word chorus, and just repeat that again and again,
Yeah.
and
Well,
you beef it up with like some three-part vocal harmonies.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what one of the cool things I liked, and we already talked about Burnout, is I like how it's at least two different parts of that song. I
Yeah.
could be wrong. You tell me if I'm wrong, but I noticed in at least two parts that there was like just like a chant of the song title, and I noticed that on two different occasions in that song. But one thing that I like and is I made one, two, three. I made three different notes on track 1, 2, and 4.
Mhm.
Rocco kind of seems to have his own little trademark with his whoa going on. So
Mhm.
I kind of like that he's kind of got his own, because a lot and we make, everyone makes fun of James Hetfield for his
Oh,
yes,
Yeah.
and we Jason and I, we kind of talk about Rob Flynn from Machine Head and his come
mhm.
ons,
Mhm.
so I mean there are a lot of vocalists who have kind of like their own little thing that they do, and
Yeah.
Rocco seems to have the whoa
Yeah.
as his kind of little thing going on.
Yeah.
And of course in Shadow's Warning, there's whoa, and then there's there's also ahs in the chorus. So I noted that too. And another another thing that I made sure to make a note on from the title track was the use of the cowbell going on.
Mm. Yeah.
Oh, need
You
more
guys
cowbell.
went. That's right. You guys went back and made sure there was plenty of cowbell in that title track. So that was cool too.
Yeah. I mean that song, it's yeah, it's got that kind of mid-tempo kind of, I don't want to call it hair metal, but that kind of, that hard rock metal from the
Yeah,
80s, a bit of cowbell.
yeah,
But, yeah,
it's got a traditional heavy
yeah,
metal feel to
yeah,
it. So if you're not wanting to, if you're not, of course, that's
mm,
the thing is I wouldn't call it hair metal either. So I mean, the
mm,
fact that you
No.
don't want to call it, I kind
yeah,
of concur with that, because it really doesn't sound hair metal to me
mm,
at all. It just, I
mm,
mean, maybe from maybe
yeah,
inspired by the 80s,
yeah,
but I mean, it doesn't really sound, it doesn't
yeah,
sound hair metalish. It doesn't sound hair metalish to me at all. It's got a
mm,
traditional heavy metal feel.
mm,
The entire album does for me
mm,
as a whole. But I mean,
Oh
there,
yeah.
mm,
towards the end, a couple of songs at the end, Calm Before the Storm,
mm,
Last Man Standing, even though Last Man Standing has a little bit more, Last Man Standing has a couple parts with a little bit more of a slower tempo to it.
yeah,
But what, and then even with the Dawning, same thing.
mm,
The tempo is a little more mid at best. Of course, there's nothing even bordering a ballad on this album at all. But track 4 and track 8 have, you guys took the tempo and,
yeah,
probably took it a little bit to more to the mid range. But you have elements of power metal towards the end of
mm,
the album. But by and large, for me, it's just a traditional heavy metal album. So
yeah,
I didn't really pick up on any elements of hair metal in it at all. So
No, me either. So
yeah. I mean, for me, the point of doing this band as well was that, you know, deep down, the music that I really identify with, and that my favorite music, it's, it is that, traditional heavy metal, and particularly from the mid to late 80s. I
mhm.
mean, and and over the years, I've met a lot of musicians who share my taste. I've met a lot of fans who share my taste, and just friends as well, and people that I enjoy this kind of music with. And I I wanted to make a band that I could kind of marry to that, to my
Mhm.
general, my personal sort of, musical taste, and the kind of friendships and the connections I have through that kind of music. So
Well,
that are one of the reasons why we made this band. Yeah,
well,
just to
and and again, that probably also helped you with, like, because you said you jumped right into the markets where you knew you needed to be
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
playing. picking this particular style of just the regular traditional heavy metal, especially over there in Europe, where I mean, the heavy metal genres, they run the gamut over there.
Yeah.
I mean, all if you can pick a heavy metal genre and you can find it in Europe. It's not like that over here. It really
Yeah.
isn't. I mean, not really, because I mean, we have an especially the traditional heavy
Yeah.
metal, with the exception of like the bands that are still around from the 80s, Testament, Exodus, Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, to a certain extent, even though they're like, a month and a half from being done, you know all those bands that we grew up on, because we're older than you, but those are the bands that we grew up on that basically molded the foundation for our heavy metal fandom, because we're both thrash guys at heart too.
Mhm.
So those bands that basically, more or less, because not all of them are from here, like Judas Priest isn't from here, Black Sabbath's not from here, but those bands that made it big here, even though they're not from here, formed what heavy metal became here in the United States. But as far as like, the stuff that Scandinavia is known for, especially, up in, Denmark and Norway, like the black stuff, like the black
Mhm.
metal and all that stuff's not really here. I mean, you find it in spots and in pieces,
Mhm.
but you go over there where you are, and you want to find a heavy metal genre, almost exactly where to go. So the fact that
Yeah.
when you and Rocco had this project, you guys had a sound in mind, like you said, you already knew where to go.
Yeah. 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 That's the thing. As fans, like, following this kind of music, over the years, we've picked up kind of where the kind of circles are, and what festivals, keep our kind of music alive. So we know where our target audience is, and which festivals we want to get onto, which bands we want to play with, which new bands we want to connect with. We've kind of noticed that over the years. So yeah, we knew exactly where to sort of target them. So that definitely helps as well. I mean, in the States, I've picked up, because the interesting thing about our scene is that it's kind of worldwide.
Hmm.
Mhm.
It
You
is.
connect, our particular sort of niche is, you pick up on other bands very quickly, and everyone knows each other. Kind of everyone's aware of each other. We're all over the world. Like, there's bands like Elm Street in
Oh yes.
Oh, I love Elm
Australia,
Street. Hell
and
yeah, I love Elm Street.
or,
Hell
or
yeah.
you have, in the States, for example, there's a couple of new bands like, Wings of Steel or Void, and
Hmm.
we've all been barely around, a year, 2 years, but we all become aware of each other very quickly, because it's kind of, the connections happen very quickly.
Yeah,
And
That's
one of
interesting. Yeah.
the one of the good things about, and we've talked about this on the show many times, because I mean, the fact that you and Rocco and like everyone can kind of do their thing from wherever they are, but it also is another example of kind of like, the world is getting smaller, because I mean, hell, like I say, we're talking to you, you're 7 hours ahead of us, we're talking to you, you're hanging out at your house, we're hanging out at our houses, where we're shooting the shit, talking about music. But you can make these instant connections, just like that. We have in the past 4 years, we've talked to people literally all over the world with this show, and it's been amazing to be able to do that. you know we're halfway through 2025. Let's just go back 10 years ago. You may not have been able to make an album
Mm.
with
Yeah. Yeah.
five members of a band spread out between London, between the UK and Croatia and Serbia. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys may have never even ran into each other to be able to even do that, let alone to literally be able to sit down like, all right, I'm going to do this and I'll send it to you. You add your thing and then we'll send it over to our guy. I mean, 10 years ago, you may not have even been able to do that. So, I mean, just to be able to do what you can do now, whether it's talking like this, whether it's working from home, or just being able to put an album together in 3 or 4 months, like you guys were able to do, to put out. I mean, it's incredible where we've gotten to, just in general, not even just being talking about the specifics of a podcast or, you know, a band.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, and the good side of social media is just, you know, if you present yourself well, if you wear your sort of heart on your sleeves and just be who you are, you know, the people who are on the same wavelength will identify with you.
Right.
And yeah, we've had a lot of people engaging, like from all over the world, you know, just because, you know, our pictures popped up in the newsfeed, and you know,
Right. Yeah.
that's enough to someone to go, oh wow, like I identify with your band. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's interesting, you know, there's good and bad sides for sure.
Well, yeah, there absolutely is. There's some could probably argue there's actually more of a darker side to social media than
Yeah,
than
definitely.
than than the light side. But you
Well,
know, it definitely has its benefits. It
I think
does.
that
I wish
we've always said it's got, you know, it's a curse and a blessing all at the same
blessing.
time, because
Yeah, it
I mean,
absolutely is.
because here I don't know how big it is there, but I mean here you almost have to be kind of you know, keeping yourself out of any kind of political things or anything because it'll hurt your product here. So it's kind of,
Mhm.
you know, and we've kind of been, you know, first off, I'm an independent voter. Most everybody knows that. I don't pick sides. So it's kind of,
Mhm.
you know, whatever you think's better is kind of where you have to lay your heart and your soul with. But, you know, I always put it this way. I had a friend of mine just the other day bring this up, and he says, "Well, you don't, you know, you kind of touch on stuff, but you don't really talk about it." I said, "No, I don't want to because that's
Right.
not what my show's. You know, if I want to run a political show, I'll go on CNN. I'm not doing that." So I said, you know, when it becomes a thing to where we're talking about it, then that's fine. We'll touch base on whatever we're talking about a little bit, but I'm not getting into, you know, deep political stuff because that just causes a lot of hardships and stuff
Mhm.
here anyway. I don't know. Like I said, you know, and I told him, I said, let me ask you this: if you go out and you see somebody in public wearing, you know, a Trump shirt or a Pope shirt or whatever the case may be, how many people you think is going to say, "Oh, I like your shirt"? Whereas if you're wearing, say, an Accept shirt, how many people are
Mhm.
like, "Oh yeah, I dig that band"? You know what I'm saying? Like you're going to see more people, you know, relate to you better for your likings of music and stuff than you would be your political stance. That's just my opinion. Like you know, and you know, like I said, you know, one of the things that stuck with me over that is Jesse from Kill Switch when he says, "Man, if you guys would take time and talk to each other, you'd find out you got a lot more in common than you do in difference." So, and that's really stuck with me. And I'm thinking, yeah,
Mhm.
man, you're probably 100% correct. So, but yeah, you know, just you know, those things, it's kind of like you got to watch what you say, watch what you do, especially like I said, social media pitch. I mean, you take Keanu Reeves for instance. I mean, every time you see him take a picture, his hands visible because he don't want nobody to say, oh, he groped me or so, you know what I mean? He's like, well, that's a lie, you see my hands.
Yeah,
So
he's like the hell I did.
yeah, right. Yeah. So I mean, it's just like it's almost like you know, you want the fans to like you, but then again, it's kind of hard to trust like every fan. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you got to give, you know, everybody a kind of the same sense of like, hey, you know, we can only do certain things here, and
Mhm.
you know,
Well, I mean,
this is what we are, and this is all we are. It's kind of
yeah, I mean, we make no bones about it. I mean, this is just a heavy metal podcast. I mean,
right.
you know, if like Jason said, if we wanted to do a political podcast, of course, I wouldn't want to even. Ugh,
Hell no.
I wouldn't even want to do it.
Who wants that
But I
headache?
mean, if we wanted to, we know a guy.
Yeah,
But you
well,
know,
yeah.
so I mean, you know, we do know a guy, but you know, we leave that shit to him. But you know, so we make no bones about it. Has it crept in the conversation a time or two? Sure, but I mean, we've always, you know, just
Well,
kind of we've steered it back onto the road. But
right. Well, it's mainly because something came up, and it's like we're talking to people in other countries, so we don't know how
sure,
things are there because we don't live there. So
Right.
it's kind of like we're kind of like trying to get some insight on what the challenges they're facing as far as trying to get you know across another border to play or whatever the case may be. So
Right. Yeah. Because I mean,
speaking of, I want to, since you guys are there, how is the transportation like part? Is that kind of like fizzling or leveling back out? Because I know a lot of bands were having trouble over in Europe trying to get transportation to even tour there. So,
Um, well, we try and travel as light as possible, and and because our dates are more one-offs,
right,
we don't need to. The bands that run into trouble, I think, are the ones that need to book a tour bus for a month.
right, exactly.
Um,
That's kind of what I was.
finding that availability. Whereas we're doing like selective
Yeah,
weekend runs or one-off dates, and so we're able to just be very sort of pragmatic and um, arrange to perhaps have most of the back line from that country or from that venue, so we don't have to travel much. But just going back to what you were saying earlier, it made me think because I mean I'm not sure it was 35 years ago now, but like Serbia and Croatia were at one point at that time at war with each other,
right,
right. Yep.
and it's interesting how this project like we have members from Croatia and Serbia, and also when we released our album, we did two concerts in the same weekend, and one was in Serbia and one was Croatia, and obviously the war is long gone, it was
right.
30 years ago,
Sure.
but it was just interesting how you know um, over there, the politicians squabble a lot and kind of try and stoke up old tensions from 30 years
Yep.
ago or even 100 years ago.
Right.
But we were just there, and the heavy metal community come together there, and all just mixing and hanging out. But it's completely normal, and that's how it should be.
That's
So,
yeah. A hundred. A
but, yeah,
hundred percent.
Yeah,
so that's interesting as well. Like Rocco from Croatia, just coming to Belgrade in Serbia, and just everyone just embracing him. And it was yeah, it was interesting. What you were saying made me think of that.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
Now,
it kind of goes back to. So I just did this big tour up in Maryland. It was a Civil War thing that we wound up going to up there, and it was funny. Like somebody actually mentioned something in the tour, and I never even thought about it. He said that 90% of the people fighting on either side didn't even know what they were really fighting for.
yeah,
They were just like
I
they
think
were
that
they were just
happens.
like they were just like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm supposed to be on this side. Like,
Mm.
but you don't even know what you're fighting for. Like
I,
it's and we're talking 200 years ago or 300 years ago, whatever it is now. But I mean,
I,
we're talking a long time ago. So I mean,
yeah.
things have changed, but especially communication wise. But if he's waiting on a Pony Express to deliver something, he's probably done dead or
Exactly.
too
Yeah.
late to change sides at that point.
But I think I have a feeling that probably happened more often than not
Oh yeah,
back
for
then
sure.
without mass communication,
Yeah,
especially anything in a time limit. That probably happened a lot back then.
yeah. Well,
Well,
I mean, I
we're
still think.
mad about what? We don't know. We're mad about what
Yeah.
that guy's mad about.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
you're still seeing that in today's world, though, because like he's talking about with social media, you're still seeing people. Oh, well, I'm mad because he's mad, or it's like
Well,
you're still kind of seeing that even with the communication. It's like, come on, people.
that's well,
You
oh shit, that is true.
know?
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
Well, Serge, let me ask you this, because you said you do go back home on a monthly basis. Now, how long have you been in London at this point? How long have you been there?
So I've actually been up here most of my life.
Oh, okay, okay.
My family came here when I was 2 years old,
Oh,
and
okay.
and it was actually to do with the war that I mentioned
I was going
earlier.
to
So
ask that. Yeah.
Okay.
and so my family was very lucky because my dad happened to be working in London at the time. So yeah, my mother and my sister and me and my grand, when we came to London, my dad had a job and a place to live. So we had it lucky in that regard. But then the war ended, and we spent every summer back there. And then as I grew up and started working and living my own life, and gradually I managed to fit in my own trips and just do my own things down there and make a lot of friends through the music, through the scene over there. So
So
that's how I had the I had the awareness of people like Rocco and Yeki as well. It was just from going back home regularly and meeting people through music. So when I'd go back there, obviously it started from that. Like in terms of my social life, it started from nothing, but it was just from finding out where the local kids in the same music were, and going out and hanging out, and yeah.
okay, well that kind of
just another example of how music's bringing people together.
it does. It does.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. And I'm sure that everyone's music does that for them. Whatever music people listen to. I mean, I'm sure, if you listen to, over here, hip hop is huge, and people gravitate towards that. Country music, same thing. I'm sure everyone's music does that for them, and everyone finds people of the same, of the same interest. But not to sound biased, but I mean, I kind of am, because I mean, we do have this experience. All three of us, actually, we have this experience where the word community gets brought up when talking about heavy metal and its fans and everything. And I always think that as far as a fan base and everything else, I really think community is actually the best description for it, because you talked about Croatians and Bosnians getting together, especially not in the grand scheme of things. 3 decades is not really all that long when you're talking about recovery from a war like that. 3 decades is not a long time, so Bosnians and Croatians being able to come together just under the banner of heavy metal shows what the community does.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because I don't have the experience, but I know I've run into people, throughout my life who do listen to other music besides heavy metal. I used to work at a local skating rink for a few years, a lot of techno and house music, and hip hop and R&B was played there. Of course, I was a DJ there for, a year and a half or so. So, I mean, I played a little bit of everything. You kind of have to, based on the clientele and the environment you're in.
Yeah.
But, my wife has listened to country pretty much her whole life, but I don't really know how close knit of a community those other genres of music have. I know people get together and they go to concerts and they have a good time, like we do as metal fans. But I really don't know if the community really exists. I really don't know that it does, because I have experienced a lot of close experiences with like total strangers at concerts and stuff like that. And, just the people that, we've met. I mean, Krista and Dana from Metal and Tats. I mean, we basically met them through the show. We ended up talking to them. Now we're friends. Now we're going to a birthday party. And then another Facebook group that we collaborate with met him in Nashville at a Testament, Exodus, and Death Angel show. And then a couple weeks later, saw him at another show 4 hours across the state.
Right.
Like, weren't you in Nashville? So, I mean, we were in Nashville one night. A couple weeks later, we were in Knoxville 4 hours away. And I was like, were you in did I talk to you in Nashville? He's like, yeah, man. So we have since, and then I think the next year, it was either the same year or the next year, he was at a metal festival here in Tennessee. Yeah. So, I mean, we've run into this guy multiple times, and now he's actually originally from Peru. So he's South American. His sister still lives there. He lives up in Nashville. and he has a Facebook group that he kind of manages up here that we collaborate with, and his sister has one down in South America that we kind of, so I mean, just the way that we've run into people and we've just kind of developed friendships and working relationships with, just over the past few years. And then like every band that we've had on the show, we consider friends. We've had bands come on more than once, and obviously moving forward, you guys have an open invitation to come back on if any, if you guys, if a full-fledged tour comes around, whenever the next album comes around, whether it's an EP, an LP, whatever it may be, you guys have an open invitation to come back to Metalheads Unite anytime. We consider all the bands that have been on our show, we consider them friends. We follow them all on social media, and mostly vice versa. We know that some people aren't as involved in social media. We totally get it because it can be exhausting, but so I just don't know that other genres of music have as close knit of a community, because people from other countries, even countries that, we're on opposite sides of a battlefield, they can come together. People of different, people who don't speak, hell, I don't speak German and I listen to Rammstein. People from other countries who don't speak English, they listen to heavy metal in English because that's how it's written, and they can sing the songs in English. So I mean, it does transcend boundaries, it does transcend languages, and it does transcend race. It does.
Well, I think just my initial thought on that is that maybe it's because I think for this kind of music you really have, well, you kind of have to go a little bit out of your way. You have to seek it out. You have to seek out the events and happenings. You have to travel to be there, and then I think it's just that when you meet other people who've done that as well, then maybe just subconsciously there's a bond because that you've both sort of thought out and gone out of your way to be there, and you're there because you like it and you identify with it. And I think that maybe you don't consciously process that, but maybe that's what it is. It's just knowing that you've gone out of your way, and that you're there because you, not by accident, because you want to be there, and you probably overcome some distance, and you're there because you're passionate. And I think maybe consciously and subconsciously, you recognise that you have that in common, and then maybe that's where the goodwill comes from. And then sort of the goodwill that maybe you wouldn't have towards every random lady on the street. Not that you wouldn't be nice to everyone, but it's that kind of.
Well, that's yeah. That is. It is.
It's that kind of. You're just giving each other a bit of moral support, and that by being extra nice or extra sort of approachable and friendly, and then going from there, having those connections.
I just say this: I've never seen nobody fall down line dancing and everybody pick them back up. So
I can't say as I have either.
I just wanted to quickly mention I'm good for like another half an hour. Is that okay with you guys?
That's totally
perfect.
fine.
That's perfect.
I mean, this is your time as long as you need or as short as you need. If you got something you need to take off and go do, man, by all means.
That's okay, man.
There's really no minimum or maximum time. There really isn't. We don't put a timeline on this at all. I know you asked, but I mean, yeah, we don't put a timeline on this.
Yeah, we like to get an hour and a half, but because I think that's just kind of what we've kind of felt like getting everything that we would like to see in the show in. That's usually kind of the time frame that we usually see an average of getting everything in that we want to get in. So we want to talk. We want because we want to learn about the band. We want to learn about you personally, and then also we want to learn about of course, the new album that came out, because that's kind of what we're here to promote. So
exactly.
So I was want to ask this too: have you guys, in any other bands that you've been in before, have you ever gotten to play in the States at all, or?
So not me personally. So two of my bandmates in Primitai, the drummer and the bassist, Scott and Johnny, they, I guess you could say, moonlighted in quite a popular sort of like folk, sort of indie folk band. This is quite funny, but they played drums and bass in a band that toured the States. That they were called Dry the River,
Okay.
and that was a good 10 years ago. So you know, it looked like an amazing experience, just from the pictures. But unfortunately, because of the visa situation, it's really difficult to get over to the States. You have to get the work permits and
Right.
it's costing more and more. And so yeah, unfortunately, none of us have been able to do that yet. We've made tourist trips over. Yeah, unfortunately, until we reach a certain level, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I get
But
that totally.
we really like. I mean, one cool experience I did have was I went to LA in 2019, and obviously I had to go and check out the rainbow and the whiskey and everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one night they had the ultimate jam night, which is where they have musicians getting up on stage, and some of them from big bands. And I I wrote to them, and I asked if I could put myself forward for a song, and I ended up being on stage for 2 songs at the Whiskey in LA. So
Oh,
Oh,
shit.
nice.
Hell yeah,
That's
dude.
that's definitely an
that was really
experience
nice.
too.
Yeah. That was a really nice kind of
Yeah.
wow.
Bucket list moment. Check.
So let me ask you this: do you remember like what month or anything you were there that year?
Yeah, it was April 2019.
Wow, I was there in May of that year.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
That would have been kind of amazing if we would have wound up being in LA at the
Yeah,
same time. Never.
yeah,
Of course, LA is huge, but I'm just saying. Like,
yeah. Yeah,
Well, I guarantee you guys would have ended up at the same venues.
yeah, at some point, but
Yeah,
it's
but
pretty funny.
never say never. I'd like
That's right. Yeah.
that is true.
I have seen bands that I know personally make it work. Like some of my friends in Seven Sisters managed to get out there, and they're very much from the same sort of scene in the background that I am. That they managed to get over, and so it's not impossible, but we'll see. And
Yeah, that visa process, not like you said, not only is it getting more and more expensive, but from what I understand, it is taking longer and
yeah,
longer
Yeah.
and longer. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous the amount of time it's taking. From what I understand, I don't know for sure, but everything I hear, it's just taking longer and longer.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's an option to get it fast tracked, but there's no guarantee that will get it accepted. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, so that's kind of the thing.
like,
That's kind of the thing with stuff here, and I hate that it's like this because we here when I first started this, I said, oh well, I probably should go and try to get us copyrighted or whatever. So then they were like, oh, well, you can pay $700, but then there's no guarantee we're going to approve it. I'm like, well, why the hell am I going to give you $700 if I have no
Yeah,
guarantee
exactly.
that I'm
Right.
going to be able to use my name or have any repercussions toward anybody using my stuff? So just like, yeah, well, it's not even worth it. Like whatever. I'm a creative person. If somebody wants it that bad, I'll change the shit. So
Yeah.
I'll add a letter or put it all together or something. It's like without changing anything, but.
Right.
But that's what a lot of people ask. So why is your Metalheads compounded? Well, because we're the only ones that do that. That's how I know. If I see anything out there like that, I'm like, hey, you do know we've been doing that for like 6 years now. You may want to. But
That's right.
I'm not like that because I feel like that, especially like with us in the metal community, you have bands with the same names that do stuff, and nobody, a lot of bands are going to be like, well, whatever, they're not us, so so. It's kind of the way I feel like. I feel like we have a niche for what we do, and if somebody else wants to use Metalheads for something different, then that's on them. So,
well, I mean, and that's the thing is, I mean, we're all metalheads anyway. So I mean, it's not like
right.
it's not like we created it, and we didn't come up with the term, but I mean, that's what we all are. We're metalheads anyway. So I mean, it's kind of
it's funny.
It would be selfish.
It's funny about that because I remember seeing something. I think it was on YouTube, and it had Metalheads Unite. And I said, "Oh, that's funny. That's my podcast's name or whatever." And I said, "I'll spell it this way though." And they said, "Oh, they kind of got huffy with me about it. I'm like, dude, I'm not like saying I'm going to sue you or anything. Like, just chill out. I said, hey, I don't care. Just hashtag it Metalheads. That's all I ask you.
That's right.
They did not like they didn't like that response too well, but so getting back to the album, Shadows Warning. I'm going to put this up here because we always like to talk about the covers and stuff here. So we're going to show pieces. So this, let me remove the banner because I forgot it kind of covers up stuff. So
yeah.
So this really, like, when you brought up that it was kind of a retro 80s type feel, and so I'm like, this is exactly what I seen this. I said, oh, that's exactly what this is. So it was it's very very cool. So who's the artist and what was the inspiration for the album cover?
So we had the concept, in our minds, and the problem we had was finding an artist who had who could do it in 2 months. A lot of good artists need a couple of months, or they're not available for a couple of months, and so we were lucky to find that this gentleman. He did a cover for a band called, I think it was Blacklist, the thrash band in the UK.
Okay, yeah.
And we really liked the vibe of that cover, so we got it in for this one, and so the concept was it had a couple of elements. This concept, one was to do with what the song is about. It's about people who run from their demons, and don't confront their own issues, and then but you actually never get away from them, and then that's what the shadows represent. It's the fact that you can try and run from your issues and try and be escapist, but they're always going to be behind you.
Right.
So that was that, and then the concept, it was it was just having these shadows and this kind of dystopian, slightly retro background, and it was also a nod to the kind of the 1980s when horror movies and heavy metal kind of had this crossover. Like
right, yeah.
There was a film called Demons. It had it was like a really cheesy Italian horror movie.
I love those. I love those.
Yeah.
It was about a cinema that was built on the ruins of a haunted old church, and the poster of the film has a similar thing. It has these kind of backlit shadows, sort of with the evil eyes. So that was the inspiration as well. So yeah, it was a little to do with the song topic, and also the aesthetics and of the music, and making sure that it looked like the music. It looked like the kind of time of referencing.
Well, and I like how they kind of involve different cultures in here too. And I noticed the little sign here is in Chinese or Japanese, and then those sorts of things.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was like it's actually a made up. I don't think it's an actual language, but it's
not an actual language. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, that was the idea. It was a little bit Blade Runner, where there's using characters from a from a language, some kind of futuristic, modern sort of things. So yeah, and again, it was like a little bit Blade Runner as well, just having that kind of dystopian sort of vibe.
That was actually probably smart. That way, you don't accidentally get something lost in translation. So that was actually
that's true.
That's actually probably smart.
Yeah.
No, but I do like that because it actually looks like it says PS1 up there. So
it does. Yeah, like so our other guitarist, Calvin. Our other guitarist, Calvin, he's a graphic designer, and he did some of the final touches. So obviously we had the artwork, and he sort of just kind of took the artwork and added the title and the logo. And
nice.
So yeah, the PS1 is actually deliberately, it's a little reference. It's the Power Surge 1, first album. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Well, let me
well spotted. Yeah.
All right. Let me ask this.
Yeah.
in on the album cover and on your guys on the Encyclopedia Metallum page,
Mhm.
there's only 4 people in the picture,
Yeah.
and there's only 4 people on the album cover.
Mhm. That,
Um,
that that was that was mainly just because of the logistics. So we 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 were in London. The only time we actually had some of the guys together was between playing our first gigs and finishing the album. We weren't going to actually be in the same country again, and then there was just one weekend where 4 out of 5 members were in London, and it just made sense to do some promo pictures then, and
okay, all right.
so it's everyone apart from the drummer and Yeki,
Okay.
who and the other thing with Yeki as well is that he's going to play the gigs where possible, and he's in the studio with tour and he's going to play live where possible, but
Okay.
um, it is slightly. It's a bit of both. He's kind of, he's the band's go-to drummer, but he's there in a kind of in a semi-session capacity as well.
Okay. Okay. That makes
But-
sense.
so that's why you know, ideally we would have had in the picture as well, but you, there was just no opportunity to get all the guys between getting the album offer and having to finish the album. There's no point where we could have got everyone
Yeah,
in the
and I
same
get
session.
and I
But,
guess you guys do need some sort of promotional media, so I guess that does make sense. So you got to just
yeah,
do it as you can. So.
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
So we
Could
took
have.
the picture. Uh, we had a concert in London, and we were using a local London session drummer for that one as well. So it
Okay.
didn't make sense to bring him along to the photo shoot because
Well,
he
that's true.
was one off.
Could
Yeah.
have did
So,
a.
so yeah,
Could have did a play.
there was a lot of pragmatism and just doing the best we could, given the time and the logistic constraints.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes total
Could have did
sense.
a play on with some old Guns N' Roses and said, "Where's Yegi?"
Yeah.
It's true.
Uh,
All
oh
right.
man,
So
that's a great album cover, by the way. I like that. So,
yeah.
and then
Yeah, thanks.
the font and stuff. Whose idea was it for the font for the logo?
What
For
is?
logo, so there's a guy called Daniel Porter. Like his Instagram tag is the Pit Forge, and
Okay.
he's a graphic designer I picked up on the last couple of years, and I thought he specializes in logos, and I thought, yeah, let's go with him. Um, pay whatever he asks, just
Yeah.
because he's very good at them, and he's got the perfect kind of. It just matches the music we have in mind perfectly, and we're very happy with what he did with it.
Oh, it turned out great.
We're definitely,
Well, I
Absolutely.
like the P and the E because it depends on how you look at it, of how it
yeah.
kind of jumps at you. Because it could sometimes it looks like it's going behind, sometimes it looks like it's coming forward, sometimes it looks like it's from the side. So it's kind of like if you move around and look at it different ways, it comes out as
Yeah.
it's kind of almost 3D ish kind of. It's pretty cool.
I can see it. I can see
Yeah,
it.
and he's done us a couple of versions. Like he's done us like a 2D one, 3D one, and but the one we nearly always use is the chromed 3D one. But
Yeah.
Okay.
but then again, like there'll be times when a festival will want all of the band logos in one color, 2D, and we have a version for that as well. So but yeah,
Well, what I like about the Chrome version is it gives off a Judas Priest vibe. The Chrome
yeah,
one,
Yeah.
it really does. But the couple of the other cool elements about it is the symmetry of it because
mm,
you have the W and the R that
yeah,
they drop down, and then
Right.
even the R and power and the S and surge they drop down to the same depth. So
Mhm.
even though they're not the same letters, they still the W and the R and the S. all of the letters opposite each other, they're oriented the same way, they drop down to the same depth. So I mean, even though they're not the same letters opposite each other, it looks, from the untrained eye anyway, it looks like they all have perfect symmetry with each other, whether it's depth or angle or whatever. So I can appreciate that, my
Yeah,
OCD.
yeah. I think he's he's a great graphic designer that's caught my eye for a couple of years, and yeah, it definitely follows that school of the symmetrical band logo. So yeah, it is very very eye catching, and just it fits nicely.
It
And
does. It also doesn't help. It also doesn't hurt that the P and the E, the way they point, draws
yeah.
your eye to the center of the album cover.
Right.
It's clever.
Another thing we wanted to nail from the get go is having a logo that a festival will be like, oh, I want that.
Oh, hell yeah!
Before they've heard the music, and they'll be like, oh, that logo would look good on our poster. So let's put
you,
the band.
you, you definitely have a festival poster logo, no doubt.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, for
All right.
sure.
One of the things that obviously stuck out on the album, track number 7, the
Yeah.
duet cover that you guys did.
Mm.
So how did that come together? Obviously, Clemorian, they're from Serbia. So
Yeah.
was there some sort of relationship already built in there, or how did you guys hook up with Clemorian?
So Claymore, I've been following for a couple of years, and just going back to what I was saying earlier, that there's a bit of extra excitement and goodwill when you meet someone or you come across someone that's you know on the similar wavelength to you, playing this and living this music, from the love and passion, and you know, before you even meet the guys, you already want to like them because they've made this great music, and they're doing it, at a really really world class level, and so it just meant that when we actually met in person, that there was already just a lot of goodwill and respect. So yeah, I picked up on them a couple of years ago, and connected on social media, and finally had a chance to see them live, and just off the bat, there's a lot of mutual respect and goodwill, and it's grown into a friendship, and so there's several aspects to this song we did, and why we did it with them, and the other aspect is it's a cover, and it's something that it's always exciting to bond is when you get into being sort of the kind of metal connoisseur and deep cuts, forgotten bands and stuff.
Hmm.
Getting overexcited, uh, getting excited about things like these forgotten bands, and especially when they've got really good songs, and Warriors and Carry On. It's a band that I've followed a lot over the years. Well, not followed because they haven't been active, but
Right.
but this kind of forgotten band from the early '80s that I've been always trying to find out more about them. Managed to pick up one of their vinyls, and I've always wanted to cover one of their songs, and that's something that I've always personally enjoyed. Just paying tribute to my favorite bands, covering them live
Right.
or on the studio, and so the cover, it was the two aspects. It was this favorite song of mine, and one of my favorite new bands, and I always knew that the singer Diana would be really perfect for that song, and I'm not sure how much they knew, but I kind of I had it all I had it all planned out and laid out in my head. But they agreed to try it, and the results were great, and they even attended one of our album launch concerts, and
Oh,
um,
nice.
rested on the song, and that was a real magical moment. I mean, I think it sounded even better than the recording. Um, so
Nice.
yeah, the story of this cover is just the two sides to it. One of them being one of my favorite songs. Never having a vehicle to cover it with until now, and the other side is just paying tribute to Claymorian, but also knowing that they were the perfect guys to collaborate on this cover with, and they kindly accepted the invitation.
That's awesome that they were
And,
able to come to the show and play
and,
that.
Yeah.
No, I definitely recommend to you guys or any listeners. They're a great band.
I'm
check
gonna
them out.
I am gonna check them out now that I know of them because of the song. I didn't, and I'm looking at it now. I didn't realize that they actually had an album come out in February. I had no idea.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna check it. I'm gonna check it out. One question about Clemorian and what they did on the, because you had Diana and you had Vlad. What all did Vlad do? Did he play on it? Did he sing on it at all?
You did a guitar solo at the end.
Okay, that
Oh,
was
okay.
him. Okay, I thought so.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, it was funny when they attended one of our concerts, and we hadn't really planned out how he was going to do it, but what we ended up is he just he was just there in the sideline, and it was coming up to the guitar solo section, and our other guitarist very kindly just passed his one over, and you get on stage. So
Nice.
yeah, so that was nice. So yeah, we had both the guest vocalist and the guest solos at the concert. And, yeah,
Very nice. Very nice.
I've seen some good footage of it, but I need to sort of make a post about that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
Now speaking of guitar solos,
Mhm.
solos in general, because good God, man, the guitar work that you and Calvin did on this album is remarkable. I
Oh, thank
made
you.
I made I made notes about the guitar solos on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I made notes about the guitar solos on 7 of the 9 songs. And then you also had a drum solo outro on Last Man Standing, and then just the overall drum line on Burnout. So I mean, obviously heavy metal is, by definition known for its guitar work. But that being said, you listen to certain albums and you can tell that some albums are more guitar centric than others. Obviously, you guys have in keeping with obviously the traditional heavy metal style, you guys have a twin guitar attack, like Maiden, like Judas Priest. What do you and Calvin do together to decide who is going to play what part of the guitar solos? Because I can tell on most of the songs where the solo kind of goes from one of you guys to the next. I can hear the transition from one player to the. Obviously, I don't know who's playing what part, but how do you guys come up with? All right, I'm going to do this part, then you'll transition to the next part, or vice versa. Like who starts, who finishes, and all that. So how does that come together for a band that's got a twin guitar attack like you guys?
On this particular album, we didn't expand to the full band until we got the album off. So Calvin only left his mark on like the last 2-3 songs.
Okay.
But the way we usually do it, I suppose, not so much this time, but the way we usually do it is I'm not really sure, but it's very spontaneous, and
Okay.
there's usually not too much overthinking. It's just I think whoever writes the songs normally comes up with the idea, and
Okay. All right.
it's usually whoever is responsible, whoever came up with most of the song, or whoever started the song. They'll usually sort of say this is how it's going to be, and because the song is their baby, and I've never been in a situation where there's been it's gone as far as a debate. Usually it's kind of like it's like a trust thing. It's like I'll write my songs and I'll say I'll be very sort of respectful and try and be fair with in all the delegating, and it's like a mutual understanding, you know, and it never really gets in the debate. It's like whoever writes the song kind of just
Okay.
decides, and yeah, like in my experience, it's never got in debate. And for example, Burnout, you know, it's Calvin's song, and he did all the solos on that, and you know, that's absolutely fine with me. You know, that there's absolutely nothing to debate about. You know, so it's like a mutual understanding. You know, it doesn't have to be any hard rule. It's just as long as the overall, you know, there's
Just kind
everyone
of
has
like
their mind. Yeah,
just like a general guideline. And
yeah,
then
and
and then
some songs they suit one guitar solo. Some suit some songs. It suits to have, you know, the full response. So yeah, it's one of those things. It's song by song, and it's usually at the writers at the writer of the song's discretion.
and I'm,
But at the end of the day, when you add everything together, it's usually fair. You know, everyone giving and taking a little bit.
sure, and I'm sure the chemistry that you guys have developed, you know, since being, of course, you know, you guys have a past together with, you know,
Yeah,
the other projects anyway. So I mean, you guys probably already, you know, you guys have had like you know each other, you know each other's tendencies and all that stuff. So I mean, it's not like, you know, it's like, all right, you know, we just got together in 2024, this is how it's going to be. So it's probably none of that, because you mentioned the, you mentioned the Democratic part of the band already anyway. So, you know, all right, uh, how excited was Yegi to get that drum solo in Last Man Standing? Because
he's happy with it.
go ahead.
Yeah, he's very happy with it. And then when we play it live, we actually let him do it like much longer. Like he made like on the record, you know, we had to keep it to a reasonable length, but
Sure, yeah.
live he'll just go on and on and on. But then the sort of cue for us to sort of come back in together is he'll just drop to the kick drum and he'll stand up and just start something over. Um, and he'll be hitting the kick drum and he'll just get the audience clapping along,
Sure.
and that'll bring the drum solo to an end. So yeah, he enjoys it, and he does it does it a lot longer live when he yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I've got a few more minutes left, if that's all right with you guys, like maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah,
No,
well,
no, no, yeah, we're getting ready to wrap up. So,
we'll wrap up. That's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. So I was just about to say that we were getting ready to do that. I wanted to give you a chance to kind of, you know, tell everybody like is there anywhere they can pick like the album up or
Yeah.
anything like that, or you have a merch store? Or...
So yeah, so our album it's available for purchase directly for the label. It's not in. It hasn't been distributed to, like, you know, the usual sort of, you know, your local supermarket, but
Yeah, no, it hasn't.
it's being you know, we've had a lot of orders come in, you know, from, you know, heavy metal import shops, you know, as far away as Japan, you know, so if you go to your local you know, heavy metal specialist little record shop, they might already have it, or you can ask them to order it in. But the easiest way is just to go to our label, FHM Records. They've got an online store, or write directly to us. You know, we'll be very happy to help you get hold of a copy.
Nice.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, yeah, there it is, right there.
And we have merch as well. Merch is, you know, directly from us. So again, just find us on social media and drop us a line. You know, we'll get back to you instantly, and we'll take it from there.
So
Nice.
what all outlets on social media are you guys on?
The usual ones. So you know, Facebook, Instagram, Bandcamp.
Oh, Bandcamp. Okay.
We're not on Twitch or TikTok yet. Unfortunately, we're not kept up with the times. But you know, we've if you go on our link tree as well, you know, just link our tag on everything is Power Surge Heavy Metal, one word. So you
Okay.
know,
All right. Yeah. Well,
if you put that as the link tree, Facebook, Instagram, Bandcamp extension, our email as well is powersurgeheavymetal@gmail.com. You'll find us, and but yeah, you'll track us down easily, and we're very responsive. We'll always
And
keep an eye on the inbox.
and just that we have fans from all over the world too on our pages and stuff too. So if you guys post anything on yours that tours or whatever, we'll be we'll be glad to share that over on our stuff as well. So
absolutely, and we are following on. Now we are following on Facebook, and we were already following on Instagram. So
Great.
absolutely. So
all right, cool. So Serge, man, appreciate the time and all the
thanks very much for reaching out, and really appreciate it.
And
Yeah.
you gave us a band, and I didn't do this earlier, but I don't know if you ever heard of the band Hellfire here in the States.
I have. They're a newer band, right?
But yeah, kind of, sort of. I think they've been out.
Yeah.
I think they just did their 4th or 5th album. I think.
Yeah.
So
like the last 10, 15. Yeah. I know Hellfire. Yeah, I think.
I was going to say, if you haven't heard of those guys, that's probably one of the bands that's like kind of leading the charge for thrash over here right now. So
I would say, I would say they are.
My friend plays in a band called Screamer, and I think that they just toured together.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Screamer. Yeah. No Screamer.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Serge, thanks again, man. I know you got other things you got to get to, so
it was an absolute pleasure chatting, and it's gone by very quickly.
It does.
It always does. It always does.
Every time we say this, we're like, oh, we like to at least get an hour and a half, and then people's, sometimes we were like 2.5 hours later, we're just like, damn, has it been that long already? Like,
it does. It goes by fast.
Yes, it does go by fast. So, again, appreciate it. Give our love to all the other members of the band. Let them know that how much we love the album, and hopefully we get to see you guys at some point. That'd be pretty cool. So
keep in touch. Let us know if you're ever over in Europe, or and
absolutely.
Well, I'll actually be plans. I have a Ireland planned trip next year, so I don't
that's
know
close.
How close they'll be, but I'll definitely. That's one of the things I told my wife. I said I got to make sure I look at all of the people that I've talked to from over here and see if they're playing anywhere. So,
that's true.
So
that's
it'd be kind of cool to catch a show of somebody I talked to. That'd be pretty awesome. So
absolutely.
Serge, man, have a great evening.
Thank you.
Best of luck with everything. Hopefully, hopefully everything is going upwards for you guys. And
you welcome back. Welcome back anytime.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully, maybe we'll get to talk to some of the band members too at some point. So Serge, appreciate it, man. You have a good one.
Yeah, have a good evening. Enjoy your weekend.
Just want to say thanks again, and just really appreciate meeting guys like you guys. It just makes it all worth it. Just the positive energy and the moral support. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good weekend.
You too, sir. Thank you. Yep. Take care.
Bye.
Right.
Awesome. That's great.
Absolutely.
Especially, we got a little bit of history from Serge there that we probably wouldn't have known about. So I mean, he coming from a place.
Has a little bit of a checkered past. Let's just say that.
Yeah, kind of being able to get out of a middle of a war and into London is probably a blessing for him and his family for sure. So that's pretty amazing. Like hearing these people's stories and stuff like that you normally wouldn't know if you didn't talk to them. So
right, and then it's because. In situations like that, when people are trying to get out of a country or two countries, of course,
right,
it pretty much is usually it's usually two countries. Obviously, not always. You do have civil wars, but more often than not, it's two countries fighting each other, and people are caught in the crossfire and they're not able to escape. So thankfully, Serge and his family were able to do that. So.
Yeah, thanks for Serge for joining us. If you haven't, check out that album, Shadows Warning by Power Surge. It's a great album. So hopefully those guys can build some momentum off of that and move on up to bigger things. So all right, I guess that will wrap it up. But just to let you guys know, we won't be live next week, but we'll be back in 2 weeks with another guest. We actually have guests lined up until the 28th right now. So it's a pretty full June already. So, but
Yep.
I will be out of town next week, so I won't be able to do the show, unfortunately.
But that will give you guys time to get caught up on some of the other interviews. You'd be able to catch, if you didn't catch today's interview, you'd be able to catch it on YouTube. Any of our other interviews that we've done here lately, Game Over, and hold on a second. God, we have done so many. God, we've done so many. Hang on, hang on, because we've done a bunch. Let's see. Game Over, Brian Slagle kissing Lilith, Onslaught. Oh, the Onslaught was so good. The Rockin' Pod Weekend. That's on YouTube.
Insights on there. So,
Insight, Shadow of the Talisman, Brainstorms. I mean, Never Fade. Both of them. So,
right.
So we have a lot of interviews that we've done. So if you've missed any of those, you'll take the next week to get caught up in any of those you may have missed. And then we do have a couple guests lined up for when we're back. And then I have a feeling that we may get the 28th taken care of between now and then.
Probably.
I just have a feeling. So June is going to be busy here at the Metalheads Unite podcast, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, I love it.
I do.
I'll do these interviews every week. So.
It's awesome.
It's great. Like I said, getting to know the bands and all that good stuff. So you guys don't know, we do have a 24/7 radio station that streams 24/7.
24/7. Yeah, it's not just a clever name. That's right.
It's stream.trulyradio247.com/8008/stream.
That's
you
right.
Can also follow us on our socials.
Yep, our Facebook group, our Facebook page on X, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, Rumble, TikTok, and Spotify, and email us anytime at metalheadsuniteusa@gmail.com. Facebook group is private, members only, and the Facebook page is public. There is more content in the group. So
we just don't have jackets for the members only yet.
Dude, if we were to get Metalheads Unite members only jacket, that would be bad.
Sounds like a good Christmas present.
It really does. Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway, you can also check out all of our playlists and stuff like that over on Spotify.
Yes.
The weekly playlists are there, which I don't sometimes, like here lately, it's because of the scheduling. It's been Sunday or Monday before I actually get them posted, but they're still there.
Yep. Last week's theme of the week, everything and nothing, is there now. So
plenty of stuff.
That wasn't last week's. Hold on a second. I'm a little out of. Let's see. What was
last week's? Was it enter and exit? Yeah, enter and exit was last week.
Yes. Enter and exit was last week's podcast. Regardless, it's there. They're all there. So
it's like the spaghetti sauce. It's in there. So
that's right. Yep. Prego, it's in there.
That's right. All right, guys. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed that interview. If not, you can always catch it, later on YouTube, on Spotify, and all that good stuff. So it will be a few days before that's up on Spotify, just to give you a heads up. But if you want to see it, immediately, YouTube,
YouTube's your best bet.
YouTube, Facebook. I think it's up 14 days on Twitch. So you got options for the next couple of weeks. So
you do.
So you go. All right. So, like I said, keep up with us on our socials so you'll know about the next band that's coming on the
14th.
14th. Yeah, I had to look at the date. I had it all wrote down over here. So,
June 14th, we'll be back with another live guest.
So, all right, guys. Until then, keep those horns held high. Jump in that pit anytime you can.
Have a great week.